Well, we have a treat for you today. Today's lesson is an interview with Professor Kyla McCarrel from Chapman University, who is a colleague of Mr. Hancock's and mine. And you are going to love hearing her talk about different ways that you can pursue music in college and beyond, whether you want to be a music major or not. There's still plenty of ways to pursue music, even if you don't want to pursue it as a career. Professor Kyla McCarrel is an accomplished performer, music educator, and conductor. She holds bachelor's and master's degrees in vocal performance and has performed opera, oratorio, and concert works around the United States. She is currently on faculty at Chapman University as a lecturer, voice instructor, and conductor of the Chapman University Treble Choir, where she enjoys passing on her passion for music and for singing.
All right, well, everybody, we've got Kyla McCarrel here from Chapman University. We're so excited to have her answer some questions about college and kind of what the options are for students when they go on to sing after high school. So my first question to you, Kyla, is how can students who are not music majors be involved in music after high school?
So there are definitely a variety of paths that you can take as not a music major, but still to be involved in singing and performing. Depending on which institution you end up at, it might look a little bit different. But generally speaking, the choral programs are going to have at least one, if not multiple ensembles that are open to the university at large. Again, depending on where you go, there might be a small audition that you have to sing for the head of that department, but typically speaking, there will be a choral ensemble that you can be in regardless of your major. So that's definitely one way. In addition to that, you'll find student groups, especially the a cappella groups, tend to be like clubs or extracurricular activities. At Chapman, where I work, we have 5 a cappella groups. All of them are student run. In addition to the 3 choral ensembles, all of which at Chapman are actually open to students of all majors. Just depends on your schedule and your audition to be considered for all of the different groups, but you certainly don't have to be a music major to be in the choirs at Chapman. In addition to those avenues, there are also like musical theater clubs that might have opportunity for non-majors, as well as the musical theater productions that are put on by the different institutions. Depending on where you end up, you'll have to check with the specific programs about what's open to who. But generally speaking, there's something either in the curriculum or extracurricular in terms of those performance opportunities. And then even outside of your institution, there are community groups. You can just do a basic like Google search to find community choirs near you, or community theaters, especially if you're in a new place that you might not be familiar with. I know in Orange County, there's a handful of community choir groups that you might even be familiar with already, but it's pretty easy to look up. And if you're not sure, the different music schools or departments at your institution could probably point you in the right direction if you are interested in that as well.
Awesome. Yeah, tons and tons of opportunities. Pretty much whatever you're interested in, there's going to be a place for you to sing, wherever your, style preferences are and everything. Now, what would you recommend for students that are wanting to become a music major? Just kind of like general, maybe tips as someone who's kind of been down the road of a music major and now someone who's on the faculty. What would you recommend for students that are wanting to become a music major?
That's a great question. And I think that one of my biggest pieces of advice would be to look at the music programs of the schools that you're interested in, because they're all a little bit different in terms of like a school of music or a conservatory or a music department. And depending on the type of program that you're interested in, there's going to be different either like course requirements or audition requirements, and then levels of intensity. A conservatory is going to be the most intense, most musically driven, performance-based type program, kind of a tier below that is a school of music, and then like a tier below that would be like a music department within a college or a university. So just knowing the difference of the schools that you're interested in is going to be a big part of your planning, and kind of like thinking about, well, I really want to go to this school. What's their music department like? And then vice versa. If there's a program that you're really interested in, what is the general feeling of the overall school? Because you're also going to be going to that school. So you want to make sure that that's a good fit for you too, and not to have too narrow a focus in terms of your overall college experience. The second thing I would say, especially when you're considering schools to apply for, sometimes we get a little stuck on the name of the school. So like, I want to go to Juilliard, and to know that you certainly can consider those places. I wouldn't say don't put them on your list if you feel like that would be a school you really want to apply for, but to know that there are smaller and maybe less name brand schools that will offer plenty of opportunity, and an equal quality of education that might have like more opportunity because they're a little bit smaller. So that's something to consider as well. And that you're going for your connection to your teacher and your performance opportunities. So that's something to consider in your research about the different schools as well. And then finally, as you prepare for the auditions and as you fill out your applications, if you have the ability to take a couple of lessons with a voice teacher before you go to your audition, not necessarily with someone at the school where you're going, although that is really beneficial if you're able to set that up if you have a teacher in mind. Most universities offer like a trial lesson, so you can maybe take a short lesson with the teacher you're interested in studying with. But if you're able to take 3 or 4 lessons with someone to help you prepare your audition materials, that can be really beneficial. Just kind of help you put the final touches on what it is you want to present and prepare. And there are plenty of voice teachers. Mr. Hancock, I'm sure, can refer you to a bunch that are around you locally, that can kind of help you make sure you have the right music for you and that you're really prepared for that experience.
And one thing I also recommend, just adding on to that, is just to have some pretty standard, like basic piano skills, is something that is really going to help you. You don't need to be playing piano for 10 years, certainly, but just kind of understanding some chords, understanding some scales, just kind of understanding how the piano is kind of laid out, is proving to be very beneficial for students that are, entering into a music theory curriculum and just kind of understanding and analyzing music in a completely different way. Having just some basic piano skills is definitely, in addition to your vocal skills and everything else that you kind of bring to the table. All right, well, my next question for you, having gone through both undergraduate and graduate music programs, for those of you who don't understand those terms, undergraduate would be normally your first 4 years, usually your bachelor's degree, and then the master's degree would normally be 2 years, maybe 3 years after that, and then a doctorate perhaps would be another 2 to 5 years after that. What are the benefits of just kind of going through an undergraduate music program as opposed to just kind of doing music on the side and, obviously it's very different when you're a music major. What are the benefits of that?
Well, firstly, you get to sing all the time, which was really important to me because I love to sing. And so singing is built into your school schedule. And you have required performance opportunities that you have to do. And I say have to with a smile because it really is exciting that you have to be in choir and you have to do this concert. It's part of your degree program. So you kind of have a built-in system of performance opportunity that if you're not a music major or part of the music program in an official capacity might be a little bit more challenging to find in an extracurricular setting. So that would be the first thing, is that it just builds that into your life. I would also say that at least for my experience at Chapman, I actually went to Chapman, which is where I now work, that it gave me a really tight knit group of friends and like support system that, especially at maybe a larger institution, might be difficult to find, especially in your first year or so. That I had this group of people that were with me, doing this with me. We became our own little friend group, many of whom I'm still incredibly close with now, like many, many years later. More manys than I oh my goodness. So that would be another thing, a built-in support system. And then just in general of some skills that you have because you're performing all the time and having to work with other people, you become really good at collaborating, working in group settings. I found that, oh, I'm sorry, my computer just dinged. Tried to close all the tabs ahead of time, but I always miss one. That even, so like the collaboration skills that you learn either working in an ensemble, that those expand into your other classes as well. It made group project work a little bit easier, of dealing with other people and trying to work with others. Public speaking, giving presentations. I mean, you get that practice of being up in front of people, in choir concerts or in a voice jury or a voice final where you have to sing in front of people. So you can kind of work through those real life skills as well in a much more regular situation.
Awesome. All right. Well, you're obviously a representative here of the greatest school in the world, Chapman University, and
we're not biased at all.
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. Private schools certainly are expensive. We know that, and even public schools, are getting to the point where it's very expensive just to go to college right now.
Yeah.
So I know the first thing on a lot of my students' minds is, how am I going to pay for this? Okay. So obviously with music, we have a talent that sometimes the university likes to, seek out. And so my question to you is, what kind of scholarships are available for music students? And do you have to be a music major in order to get scholarships? I think that's probably a consideration as well.
Yeah, so talent-based aid is a thing. Just like there's merit-based scholarship for your grades and your academic performance, there is a type of aid that's talent-based. And that's where your musical skills might help you get a little bit more aid. Depending on each school might have a different approach to this. So my biggest piece of advice is to research each school individually. There isn't a blanket answer for each school. Once you've made your list of where you're going to apply, if they offer talent scholarships, read their requirements for how to apply for that money. Sometimes, like I could be dating myself here with the Common App, but there was like an arts supplement that I had to fill out that went to some schools. Other schools had their own special requirements. They wanted me to fill out an application and write an essay or send in a video for that. So that would be my biggest piece of advice, is just look at each school's offerings first. And then depending on, do you have to be a music major? Do you have to not be a music major and still maybe you can get some aid? I think that is also kind of going to be institution by institution. Certainly for students applying for a music degree, to be a music major, there is talent-based aid available to those students. And if you are maybe not wanting to be a music major, but maybe you want to be a music minor, which is another way you can still be involved in music in college and have access to these programs and opportunities. But maybe you've also found that you love psychology and you really want to go into psychology. You can still minor in music. And sometimes there's aid available for music minors as well. If you don't want to be a music major or a music minor, but you're still interested in talent-based aid, I would say contact the school perhaps, or if you can't find the information online, and they might be like, well, if you can send us a video, we can consider you for this. I'm not sure the specifics of that, but that would be my advice. And then in addition to talent-based aid offered by the individual institutions, you can also research for private scholarships, sometimes in the form of competitions. And you can just do a Google search, or if your teachers know of competitions, sometimes the prizes for those are in forms of scholarship money that are completely independent of your institution. Of course, you'll want to check with your school about how aid works once you decide to go there, but that would be another avenue that you could pursue for potential aid.
Yeah, and one thing that's important to understand the difference of for those of you applying to college is the difference between a loan and a grant. Okay, so or a scholarship. Oftentimes, they're all kind of lumped together when you get a financial aid package. Loans are money you're gonna have to pay back eventually, and grants are gonna be something that basically like is money that you get to help you pay, and that you don't have to pay back. And certainly most of the scholarships that we're talking about, when it comes to talent scholarships, it's going to be money. It's not going to be in the form of loans. It's going to be in the form of money that goes into your account that helps you pay for your college education. And that's going to happen at Cal State's, at even some junior colleges, community colleges. They offer some that might help pay for your voice lessons, help pay for your books. There's lots of different avenues out there, and it's important to check with whatever schools you're applying for or applying to, so that you can understand the different options that are available for you. All right, and my last question is, there are plenty of students that want to be involved in music, but they know they want to go down a different career path. How can you still be involved in college, or even if you're not even going to college? Let's say you want to go to a trade school, or you want to go right into a job. You want to do something else other than the college path, and that's totally great. How can you still be involved with music after high school?
Oh, that's such a great question, because we form such a love of music making when we're in our high school choirs. I mean, I sang in choir throughout all of high school, and it's such an important part of so many people's lives, even if it isn't what you want to do for your career. So some options. There are, as I mentioned earlier, there are a number of community colleges that are an easy Google search to find. And usually there's an audition, but it's, something you can work out with the director of the various choirs. They'll tell you what they want to hear. Some larger colleges offer a community chorus. Like, I did my master's at Arizona State, and they had a choir that was a community choir. So you didn't have to be a student at Arizona State to be in the choir. I think you had to register for the class, but you didn't have to be a student at Arizona State to be in this community ensemble. So sometimes there are opportunities like that. You might even be able to do that at a community college, depending on the type of depending on what they offer.
There are community colleges all around Orange County that offer these community type courses for people who are not necessarily majoring or even going to a normal 2 or 4 year college, but you can still be a part of.
Yeah, and then there are community theater programs if you want to be more involved in musical theater. Again, just an easy Google search. And then, of course, if you want to get a little bit more specialized, barbershop groups or Sweet Adelines, again, just kind of Googling, depending on where you end up, what the availabilities are around you, or you could make your own group. And then, in addition to those offerings, many different churches and synagogues have choral singing involved in their services, and if that's something that's important to you, those groups are something to look at as well, and you can be involved in that way too.
And that could be a job too. A lot of people don't understand that in a lot of religious services, the musicians are often paid, and some of them paid pretty decent wage in terms of an hourly rate. So if that's something that is of interest to you, certainly singing in that kind of environment is an option as well. All right. Well, thank you so much, Kyla, or Professor McCarrel, for being a part of our learning today and teaching us a little bit more about the college situation and just the post-secondary, post-high school singing opportunities. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Of course. Good to see you all.
All right. Bye.
Bye.